At our quarterly conference, my regional manager smirked into the microphone. Some people are like decorative plants, nice to have around, but they don't actually do anything useful. The entire room chuckled as I sat there, swallowing humiliation. I said nothing. I just quietly attached evidence of his years of misconduct to an anonymous email, and when the lawsuit broke national news, his name was the first one they published.
I work in sales for a major logistics company. I'm not going to name the company, but let's just say if you've ever shipped something big, you've probably used us. I've been with them for over 12 years. I'm not flashy. I don't suck up to higher-ups. I don't hit the bar after work with the guys. I just do my job. Quietly. Honestly. I've never had a formal write-up. I've hit or exceeded my quotas every year. Clients like me. I show up early, stay late if needed, and I don't play politics. My regional manager, Dale Rumson, is the exact opposite. Loud. Fake friendly. Says team a lot but always throws people under the bus to cover himself. He likes the spotlight. Loves calling people out in public meetings, never by name, but always obvious enough so you know who he's talking about. I was one of his regular targets. I used to think he just didn't like me. Later, I realized it wasn't personal. He just couldn't stand anyone who didn't worship him. This all came to a head during our quarterly regional meeting. These are big events. A couple hundred people from multiple states fly in. Usually held in big hotels with conference centers. This one was in Cincinnati. I had just flown in that morning. Barely slept. My flight got delayed and I was still recovering from strep throat. I showed up anyway. I wasn't scheduled to speak. I wasn't there to win awards. Just wanted to attend, take notes, and go home. Then Dale got up on stage. He started with his usual jokes. Fake stories. A PowerPoint about accountability and ownership like he hadn't screwed up the entire Illinois freight deal 2 weeks earlier and blamed it on a junior rep who got fired for it. Then he said it. Some people in this company, he paused, are like decorative plants. They look fine. Harmless. But they don't actually do anything useful. People laughed. He didn't say my name, but heads turned toward me. 2 of my coworkers looked straight at me, then quickly looked away. Dale was staring right at me when he said it, smiling. That little smirk on his face. I felt my face get hot. I didn't say anything. I didn't flinch. Just sat there, holding my pen tight enough my fingers went numb. Everyone laughed. Everyone moved on. I didn't. Because what Dale didn't know was that for the past 6 months, I'd been collecting things. I had copies of emails where he pressured employees to fake client survey scores. Screenshots of texts where he told one of the female reps to flirt a little to get a deal closed. Expense reports that didn't match up, plane tickets, hotel stays, and dinners for client meetings that didn't exist. Audio from a Zoom call where he bragged about firing a guy just to make an example. A signed vendor contract with altered numbers that he later blamed on the finance team. I didn't gather these things for revenge. I started saving them after Dale threw a friend of mine under the bus over a data entry error that was Dale's fault. My friend lost his job. That's when I started keeping receipts. I had everything in a folder on a personal hard drive at home. It sat there for months. I didn't know if I'd ever use it. But when he humiliated me like that, in front of hundreds of people, I decided it was time. That night, I went home. Sat at my desk. No music. No TV. Just quiet. I opened the folder. I wrote an email. Took my time. I included context. Dates. Names. Attached files. Over 40 documents. Then I created a burner Gmail account. Sent the email to our company's HR department, legal department, and also copied 3 journalists, one from the Cincinnati Enquirer, one from a national labor publication, and one from a business watchdog site I found online. No signature. Just facts. I went to bed shaking. Couldn't sleep. My hands were cold even under the blanket. I didn't know what would happen. But 2 days later, I knew it had been read. The first journalist replied. One line, "This is huge. Can you talk?" I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Because by the end of that week, everything started falling apart. The next Monday, things felt off. Not in a big, dramatic way, no sirens, no big announcement, but the energy in the building had changed. People were whispering in corners. HR was holding closed-door meetings. Dale wasn't in his office. That never happened on a Monday. By noon, we got an email from corporate. Vague. Effective immediately, Regional Manager Dale Rumson is on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. That's all it said. I stared at the screen. My heart pounded. I reread it 5 times. My phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. She worked in operations, always had a good radar for gossip. What the hell is going on? Heard Dale got reported to corporate and some journalist. You know anything? I stared at that message for a full minute. Then just replied, no idea. Crazy, right? Inside, I was shaking. By Wednesday, the business news sites picked it up. Just a few lines about allegations of misconduct, no names yet, but insiders knew. But the real twist came that Friday. A journalist from the labor watchdog site ran a full story. He didn't just have what I sent. He had more. Apparently, other people had started sending stuff too. Someone from the finance team. A former assistant manager who got laid off during a restructure. Even a vendor. It turned out Dale had been sloppy. Real sloppy. The article laid everything out: sexual harassment claims, falsified expense reports, intimidation tactics, manipulation of client surveys to hit bonus thresholds, even falsifying quarterly numbers to inflate his team's performance. And then came the shocker. Someone had a recording of Dale bragging during an off-site dinner about pulling strings to get a rep fired after she rejected him. That was the moment it blew wide open. Now it wasn't just corporate. It was legal. And Dale's name was everywhere. CNN Business picked it up. Then Yahoo Finance. The Cincinnati Enquirer ran a whole timeline of his rise in the company, then his sudden fall from grace. We got another email from corporate that Monday. All employees are advised not to discuss ongoing investigations with media or other external parties. Too late. Everyone already was. Dale tried to get ahead of it. He posted a long message on LinkedIn about cancel culture and how corporate backstabbing was ruining strong leadership. Bad move. The comments shredded him. People from inside the company. People he'd fired. People from other offices. Even a few clients. Then someone posted screenshots of his expense reports. Actual photos of him dining at luxury steakhouses with no listed clients, just scribbled names like Jim C. or Training Review. One said, I kid you not, strategy lunch, $287.94, client, TBD. And guess what? Corporate started getting sued. 3 former employees filed wrongful termination suits. One was my friend, the one Dale blamed for his screw-up months ago. Another was a woman who had filed a complaint about Dale 2 years back and was suddenly demoted. That's when corporate realized this wasn't going away. More investigators came in. HR looked terrified. My own manager, who'd always played Dale's side, started acting like I was his best friend. People were scared. And I hadn't said a word. But then, something unexpected happened. I got called into HR. They said they just wanted to chat. Asked me how I felt about Dale. Asked if I'd ever felt uncomfortable. I said yes, but nothing I wanted to formally report. They asked if I'd ever witnessed him pressuring anyone to do something unethical. I paused. Then I said, yes. I didn't tell them I was the one who sent the email. Not yet. But I told them what I'd seen. That was enough. Later that week, I got a voicemail from an outside lawyer. He said he was helping represent a group of former employees in a class action suit against the company and asked if I'd be willing to provide information anonymously. I said yes. That's when things really started getting messy. 2 weeks later, a subpoena showed up at the office. Not for me, but for our internal records. One of the interns in legal spilled the beans while venting to someone in the break room. Said corporate's entire email server had been flagged for review. Everything Dale ever sent, received, forwarded, deleted, it was all being combed through by external investigators now. People got real quiet after that. The company stopped pretending it was a leave of absence. Dale's profile was pulled from the website. His name was wiped off every leadership doc. Some guy from New Jersey named Arnold Dykstra took over his role interim. But the real shock came when someone leaked one of the internal memos to the press. It was an email chain between Dale, a VP, and the head of vendor contracts. In it, Dale literally asked for a side cut on a logistics deal in exchange for making the numbers work. He was skimming tens of thousands off the top from a third-party supplier in Indiana. In writing. Once that hit the internet, the national coverage exploded. CNN ran a full evening segment on it. NBC interviewed 2 of the fired reps, one of them cried on camera. She said Dale told her she was too old to compete in sales and made up a fake performance review to push her out. The company went into full panic mode. Mandatory ethics training for every employee. Anonymous surveys about workplace culture. Suddenly there was a Speak Up hotline run by a third-party firm, where you could report misconduct directly. But the twist that hit hardest, for me, came from inside. Remember Jenna, the coworker who texted me early on? She pulled me aside one morning, eyes wide, whispering. Hey. I heard a rumor someone from our floor might have started all this. Like, actually started it. I played dumb. Really? She nodded. That's what they're saying. Someone had a folder. Like, serious dirt. Years worth. Not just random complaints. I kept my face calm. Crazy, I said. People talk. She shrugged, then leaned in. If it was you, you're kind of a legend right now. I didn't respond. Just smiled. I wasn't looking for glory. I didn't want credit. I wanted Dale to feel what so many of us had felt, humiliation, fear, betrayal. I wanted him to know someone had the power to rip everything away from him. But the biggest twist was still coming. 3 weeks after Dale disappeared from the company, a second name came out in the legal filings. Brandon Sykes. Senior VP of Operations. Turns out Dale hadn't been working alone. Brandon was the one who approved a lot of those shady deals. He signed off on the fake reviews. He helped Dale shuffle numbers around to qualify for regional bonuses. Worse, he'd even pressured HR to bury complaints. He was higher up than Dale. And now, they were both caught in the same net. Brandon got arrested. White-collar charges. Embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy to retaliate against employees. Actual jail time was on the table. And the cherry on top? Dale finally broke his silence, on Twitter. He claimed he was the victim of a corporate smear campaign, that he was targeted by bitter underperformers, and that he planned to sue the company and expose the truth. The tweet got ratioed into the dirt. One reply said, "Funny how the truth only matters once you lose your job." Another, "You were someone's decorative plant, Dale. Pretty to look at. But full of crap." It had over 20,000 likes. The fall wasn't over yet. And I was just getting started. I thought it was over. I thought Dale getting dragged, Brandon getting arrested, and the company scrambling to fix everything was the finish line. But karma wasn't done. About a month after Dale's Twitter meltdown, I got a letter at home. No return address. Inside was a printout, just one page. It was an email I had sent 3 years ago to HR, complaining about Dale. Back then, I'd reported something small. He'd made an inappropriate joke about a pregnant coworker during a team lunch. I was told it was handled internally. The matter was closed. Now I was looking at the proof they never really handled it. Someone from the inside had mailed it to me. No name. Just a sticky note with 3 words, "You were right." That night, I opened the folder again, the original one. I still had stuff I hadn't sent. Not just on Dale, but on Brandon, and even a couple others in upper management. Stuff I'd collected but didn't think would matter. Now I knew it did. I emailed the outside lawyer I'd spoken to weeks ago. Told him I had more. He asked for everything. I gave it to him. That kicked off the final wave. By December, the company was hit with a second class action lawsuit. This time not just about wrongful termination, but retaliation, fraudulent incentive manipulation, and hostile work environment. It wasn't just Dale and Brandon. 3 more execs were named. One of them was the head of HR. Apparently, she'd been covering for Dale and Brandon for years. Turning complaints into coaching notes, sitting on sexual harassment claims, and sending out clean reference letters to employees who were forced out. The press tore it apart. Our company's stock dropped 14% in a week. Corporate released a statement full of legal speak and empty promises. "We are committed to accountability, growth, and a renewed commitment to ethical leadership." Nobody bought it. Then the Fed stepped in. An investigation into financial misconduct opened up, SEC level. Because the doctored performance numbers Dale and Brandon used? Those numbers affected investor reports. It was no longer just a workplace scandal. It was a federal case. I sat at my desk every day while the storm got bigger. Quiet. Focused. Hitting my numbers. No one dared say a word to me now. People treated me differently. I wasn't invisible anymore. Some looked nervous. Some looked grateful. Jenna came by again one afternoon. She had tears in her eyes. Said she had once complained about Brandon pressuring her to work overtime without pay, and when she brought it to HR, they called her emotional. She thanked me, without saying why. I just nodded. Then came the final blow. One morning, I got a call from a reporter. She said they were doing a follow-up story on the whistleblower behind it all. She asked if I'd be willing to talk, anonymously. I said no. But I gave her permission to print one sentence I had written in the original anonymous email. "Some people like Dale think they're untouchable, until they learn the quiet ones were watching." That line went viral. It ended up on Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit. Even printed on a poster in someone's cubicle, someone I'd never met. A few weeks later, I found out Dale had filed for bankruptcy. The lawsuits drained him. His reputation was toast. Couldn't get hired anywhere in the industry. Brandon took a plea deal. 3 years in federal prison. Fines in the 6 figures. The HR head? Banned from practicing HR in any licensed capacity for life. And the company? They survived, barely. New leadership. New policies. But the damage was permanent. As for me, I stayed for a while. Then one day, I gave my notice. No drama. No speech. I had an offer from a smaller firm. Higher pay. Remote work. A manager who listened. On my last day, I cleaned out my desk. Walked through the floor quietly. A few people clapped. Some nodded. Jenna hugged me. And just before I walked out, I passed the conference room, the same one where Dale once smirked into the mic and humiliated me. It was empty now. I stood there for a second. Remembered every look. Every fake laugh. Every time I swallowed my pride. Then I turned and left. I never looked back.